It has been 3 seasons since Ryan Poles has been fired, and it seems like we're going back to the same question. Is Ryan Poles the GM or the future GM of this Chicago Bears franchise? And it's a mixed bag of a question because there are a lot of things that Ryan Poles has done good for this organization and a lot of bad things that Ryan Poles has done in this situation as well. And listen, he didn't get a great team to start off with. He was hired into an organization that couldn't manage the cap situation and overpaid their players and eventually had to tear it down. But what he did and what he was able to be brought up and promised to the Chicago Bears fans hasn't really come to fruition. And I'm going to be going more into that. What is up, guys? Welcome back to So Back Sports, and I'm so back with another video. And today I just wanted to kind of talk about my thoughts on Ryan Poles as a whole. And listen, as if you have been watching me for so long, I've been a huge Ryan Poles advocate. I think he's done a lot for this organization, and a lot of Bears fans have recognized that too. Uh, Curating the Carolina Panthers trade to eventually get us Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Tyreek Stevenson, and we have a second round pick from the Panthers for this upcoming draft. He's done a lot of things. Get Montez Sweat, sign Jalen Johnson rather than trade him away, and he's helped us get back under the cap a lot in the past 3 seasons, and really has helped us financially been more sound as an organization. But when it comes to a lot of the things he hasn't done, it seems like that speaks a lot more now than the good things he's done. Mainly because not only he got the QB right, because Caleb Williams was definitely the right choice, 100% the right choice to move off of Fields and to get Caleb Williams, 100% the right choice. But there are a lot of issues with this team that needed to be addressed. First and foremost, the coaching staff has been most of the time Ryan Poles' Achilles heel. And it's not like his all his fault that the coaching staff has not come to fruition, because based on reports, it seemed that his hands were tied when it comes to keeping and firing Matt Eberflus. He really wanted Flus to be gone after the season, but decided to stick with him anyways because of upper management, aka the McCaskies. But it comes to a point where he should have been fired. Eberflus should have been fired after that Patriots game, and Ryan Poles really wanted to pull the trigger, but upper management didn't let him until it got so bad against the Lions, where an absurd clock management call it to end the game and lose the game eventually was the straw that broke the camel's back and eventually led Flus to be fired, promoting offensive coordinator at the time offensive coordinator Thomas Brown to be the interim head coach. And you also think about the other coaching staff issues like offensive coordinator Shane Waldron and Luke Getzey were not it whatsoever. And you can say that it was probably the upper management and how they liked and how they do the coaching staff review process and interview process. It's also flawed as well. But it was under Ryan Poles' watch as well. And I understand that the McCaskies and the upper management have a lot of say, but it sucks that it had to happen to him of all people. But that's honestly, the coaching staff isn't my main concern. It was just one of the few things that have to be really discussed. The main thing is not developing the offensive line and defensive lines for this team. We've been needing a solid edge rusher to pair up with Montez Sweat. We have not gotten that this offseason. And we're sticking with backups and people that we can give up a seventh round pick. Not saying Daryl Taylor for edge in the edge position isn't a bad move, but it's not like a premier edge rusher that can, get you all the way. We're barely getting pressure on the opposing QBs this season, and our sack totals for Montez Sweat specifically are just not there. I think he totally recorded only like a 4.5 sacks this season, which is, I would assume, a career low for him, and we paid him all that money. Granted, I think that he's also hurt. I'm not saying that it's all on Montez Sweat's fault, but help could have been really necessary for this front defensive line. Javon Dexter was really good. I'm not saying that he isn't, and there are a lot of holes on this D line that need to be fixed. That's one thing. And then the offensive line, I don't know what it is with him. Considering that Ryan Poles is a former offensive lineman, you would think that he would have a lot of good ideas to eventually fix it or be concerned more about the offensive line when it comes to fixing this team. And he did not do that. He did do one thing, whereas get Darnell Wright, draft Darnell Wright for the 2023 NFL draft, and that was a great pick. I would say that's one of his great picks for that spot. He had Tevin Jenkins. I mean, that was because Ryan Pace, I think, drafted him, and it was just a makeshift offensive line, just a bunch of fifth and sixth round picks, uh, no depth whatsoever. And it just continued to be a musical chairs moment for this offensive line, continuously moving in and out of the lineup due to health and even being poor at times. Don't even get me started about the Nate Davis contract, because that was the most overpaid contract. Nate Davis did not pan out whatsoever. He was abysmal during his tenure here, and he was just outright lazy at this point. So we overpaid an offensive lineman that we got from Tennessee, and he's no longer on this team because we cut him early on this season. There are a lot of things like that, and it seems like the offensive line is what's ruining our quarterbacks room, because right now Caleb is right now leading the NFL with sacks. Not great look whatsoever if you are a GM really pushing to take the North and never give it back. You know, it's it's just abysmal. It's genuinely abysmal, because why, if you want to develop your quarterback, you want to give him a good offensive line. And there are moments in the offseason where you could have been aggressive and you could have used the cap space that you had to get premier talent, whether it's through the draft or trading up, trading down. And listen, I get it. It's not necessarily that easy to do, but at least try. I'm not sitting on your hands and like pretty much neglecting that spot. And all the offensive line pieces, for the most part, were taken like near the end or towards the beginning of the NFL season, when we were just trying to salvage some offensive line pieces, and it eventually just became a big problem and a glaring hole for this team, because constant pressure on Caleb Williams to get the ball out, which, to be fair, he's been really, you know, doing his best to maneuver around those situations and using his legs and whatnot. But for a quarterback who's trying to make a name for himself as the number one overall pick and has so many expectations this season, it really will take a toll on his confidence. But it seems like he's doing fine without it. But the more time passes and the more the season goes on, and even going into next season, if this isn't addressed, it's just going to be, setting back your team and your franchise years and years. And that's something that we as Bears fans worry about when it comes to his decision making in getting offensive line help. And you have a ton of money. And I hope you know that, Ryan Poles. Like, you could use that money to pay for a premier offensive lineman. And I get it. The upper management is very cheap and doesn't like to spend. But I'm sorry, if you're not going to spend the money that you have left over after each offseason, then what is the point of having it in the first place? It's not going to carry over as like much. Like, even if it does, it's still not worth it. There's seasons are every season is finite, and each season is very valuable when it comes to your process. And you really want to take the North, you have to be aggressive. And the thing is, the Bears organization as a whole has never been aggressive ever since we had the McCaskies take over this franchise. They just like the status quo. They only will take coaches and um, people to be on their staff that are yes men and are cheap on top of that too. And until those things change, and until that changes, it's going to affect the GM and how he's able to do as well. So it's not necessarily all on Ryan, but at the same time, it is, because You can have a say. You're the GM. If you have a vision, if you have something that you want to instill into this franchise, you should open your mouth and do it. Like, I get that they're your owners. I get that they're your bosses, but you're just wasting time at this point. You're wasting the fans' money for seeing a product that is incomplete and is just not up to par with the rest of the NFL. The NFL, like, there are teams that are rebuilding, um, like us constantly for many years. The Jets, for example, have not made the playoffs for 14 years now, but we're not the Jets. I mean, we're the NFC version of the Jets in a sense, but there are other teams that had 1 year rebuilds or 2 year rebuilds and then they're immediately contenders or immediately in the process of it. Why? Because they continuously do what is necessary for this team. And the third thing as well is instilling like confidence and positive energy in this team. Firing your head coach in the middle of the season has not been the Bears' mojo, but it is this season. And the turnover really set back this team, I will say. Because if you can take anything away from the 49ers game, that team was not ready to play whatsoever. They were just checked out mentally, except for maybe the quarterback, and Roma Dunze, but everyone else, we're not on the same page. Instilling leadership that can really help this team and having a bunch of leaders in like 8 different captains. I remember I was listening to CSGO about this, and 8 different captains. Like, I know that's definitely on the head coaching, but it's like at some point you have to also be involved with what's going on in the locker room too. That's another thing. The locker room presence has not been there. And that's what has been leading to us being 14-34 in your tenure, Brian Poles. It's not good. And it just continuously not going to be good if this continues into next year. And listen, next season is going to be the most important and crucial season for Ryan Poles. This will make or break or his tenure in Chicago. Because if he fails for this next head coaching hire, he's done. Genuinely done. He only has 1 year to prove it, too. The coach has to immediately perform. This team is too talented, or at least has the too talented of pieces for it to be wasted like this. And that's just the truth, and that's the hard fact. Because you have premier talent at wide receiver, you have a quarterback now, especially a quarterback that through all this turmoil is dropping 2,700 yards and is on page for 3,500 in his rookie season, breaking records for the Chicago Bears. And as a rookie as well, he's doing all that. So it is in your best interest to build an offensive line correctly and get premier edge talent for the D line and continue to build the trenches. That's plain and fact and simple. That's all it's going to really make or break this team. And hiring the head coach that will instill confidence within the team and not just some yes men as well. Obviously, I remember Kevin Warren is also going to be included in the search along with Caleb Williams. So using that input is going to definitely make or break his coaching decision hire. From based on reports, there seems that Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Joe Brady, and I think Brian Flores, most of those guys are literally defensive coordinators or former head coaches that were DCs or they're defensive minded. So that's something as well. I don't know. It's going to be a very long off season. It's going to be a lot of what are we going to do in the draft? What is the head coaching hire now is good. All eyes on Ryan Poles right now, and it seems like the pressure is going to continue to rise every single year. And listen, you can say what you want about what he has done bad. He's done a pretty bad stuff when it comes to neglecting key components of this team, but you have to also, in the same breath, keep in mind that he is in the benefit for the team as well. You saw in the press conference with Kevin Warren right after they fired Eberflus how disappointed he looked, and that's something I kind of will appreciate, as mentioned by CSGO. Like, it's it shows that your GM genuinely cares and is frustrated with the product that he put out, or the product that has come to fruition this season. Because on paper, this team is not a 4-9 team. This team is not whatsoever. We are a Hail Mary, a blocked kick, poor clock management, and overtime away from having 4 extra wins this season. Oh, and even a Patriots game away from having 5 wins this season and being a playoff contender. It's not far off. It's just that we have a lot of glaring holes on this team and leadership issues um, that need to be addressed whatsoever. And if those aren't addressed, his job as well is gone. And we'll have to find a new GM. And it's eventually going to have to restart again. And it's going to be awful. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you guys think about Ryan Poles? Is he going to be the right guy for the job? If not, then who do you think should replace him? And what does Ryan Poles need to do to keep his job? I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. Always remember to like and subscribe. Podcast episodes every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So be sure to check those out. And as always, guys, as always, it's been Sovac Sports. Always remember to like and subscribe. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one.